Hey, what's up, La Familia? You crazy football-loving nutters. This is Ray Hudson, and you are luxuriating in listening to the Inter Miami podcast with the stupefyingly magnificent Jay and Alex. Two lads who are as electrifying as a hairdryer thrown into a hot tub. Stay tuned, because you know what it's going to be. It's going to be magisterial with an amplifier.
To the left, Pellegrini, inside, Pizarro Golazo, here's the goal scorer, Morgan, and he's done it again, Lewis Morgan with his second of the match. Higuain will have the goal, he's framed the top 90, it's a sensational first goal for Gonzalo Higuain.
So you're telling me that you're going to buy a digital piece of property and then do you like build your house on that? Like how you want it set up, or does that have to cost more money? Do you have to hire people to build your digital house in your fake little Decentraland concept you have in your head?
See, much better than what happens in reality. There's no construction companies. There's no building going on. If you want to buy that house, Jay, you just simply buy that house and immediately a house pops up.
What if the housing... What if the crypto fake digital housing market crashes?
Honestly, dude, I think you're asking the wrong question.
These are the things you need to look into.
Otherwise,
the U.S. government is going to seize your fake digital property in your made-up universe online.
And what if real property on Earth actually plummets and tumbles and virtual property skyrockets? To the moon, baby.
I mean, this isn't the Matrix. You can't just interject yourself into a digital world and forget your whole entire life has crumbled around you.
Is this not the Matrix?
We're definitely not in a simulation.
We might be in a simulation here.
Well, I'm going to just move to El Salvador because the government's trying to take all our crypto monies.
They're trying, but don't let them.
They can't. But speaking of El Salvador, we do have World Cup qualifiers, rather, coming up with a nice little matchup on Thursday, September 2nd. So one more day after you hear this podcast, since it's dropping on a Wednesday. But, man, we are about to have some serious amount of football shoved down our throat as both a United States men's national team supporter group, but also, obviously, the Inter Miami podcast.
Two questions. Do you think any players on El Salvador take Bitcoin as currency and compensation for their contract? And number two is, sir, would you rather take US dollar or Bitcoin for your contract if you were, dare I say, signed by Inter Miami?
Oh, I would be hard pressed to think that someone isn't doing that over there. There was a football player, an American football player for the Panthers, I believe, that did that. And then it went up and everyone's like, oh, he's a genius. And it crashed like, sucks for you, dude. You got paid pennies on the dollar.
That contract went from 10 million to 1.
I guess it would depend on at what rate you plan on spending that money, because if you obviously you have enough time for it to continue to appreciate, so don't use it all. Maybe just, take off like a little, 3% here, 5% there. And just let it grow.
Let it grow, baby. And this is not a podcast about cryptocurrencies, although there may be talks of one coming up. You never know, or you can just give us a call and talk to us on a Friday afternoon, one or the other. But
this is not, but you're still trying to convince me to spend thousands on a fake digital property in a made up universe, digital planet. Zuckerberg built?
No planets, dude. This is a digital space. Mark my words, Jay, you will be an owner of virtual land in less than 2 years. And if you're not, you're missing the house party I'm throwing in 10.
I don't even know what to say. We're moving on. Welcome, everyone, to the Inter Miami podcast. I am Jay Kington, along with the often delusional Alex Papa George. I would say how you're doing today, but you've been talking straight nonsense gibberish to me for the past 30 minutes. So we're going to skip right past that part. He's doing fine if you do care. But we're coming to you in fair high spirits, I'd say. We haven't lost. We're just continuing this. It's not really a super long streak, but I'd say 7-8 game. A couple hiccups there, so it feels good. Nice little streak of play we have going on here, bud.
I mean, absolutely, man. I mean, listen, with this tie, we've won 4, we've tied twice, and we've lost once against NYCFC over the course of the last 7 matches. And Jay, I got to say, that is pretty damn good, if I don't say so myself. And
considering they just beat the Revs this weekend, the best team in the league.
2-0. You know, that game looks a little not as poor on the result, I guess, sheet as you may think of it. But listen, we're going to get into what we think of the MLS and what's going on in the playoff picture towards the end of the show. This is something that you guys asked for. We are going to deliver. We got a lot of requests about people wanting to understand, especially as we kind of turn the corner and come around to the final third of the MLS season, of what's going on around the league. Where does Inter Miami stack up? And beyond Inter Miami, you know, what are those other teams in contention, and who's doing what? So we're going to go ahead and bring that to you at the end of the show after our review of this match against Orlando City.
Excellent. Very good. We watched the game at Fox and Hound.
Well, we were there.
We were there. We did, I guess we didn't, but they might have struggled to put the game on or find it on ESPN Plus, I believe.
You don't sell yourself short, Jay. There was a point at this night when the game was going on and we were starting to all get a little bit frantic and be like, oh, why can't we turn this game off? Jay went behind the bar, grabbed the computer from our bartender and says, I got this. And he typed in his code for, what was it, ESPN Plus, I think it was. Yeah. And brought the game right up, you know? And actually, funny enough, the dude next to us, I think, bought shots because of that.
Well, no, Dan. So a supporter came out, Dan, to walk. He walked in and he was like, "Oh, you guys are the podcast guys." Like, yeah, man, we're the podcast guys. So he just posted up with us, and we all watched the game together. But there was someone else there with who I would presume to be his wife, fiance, or girlfriend, or maybe sister or friend. Who knows? But yeah, he ended up buying us some drinks because we got it resolved. I was just behind the bar and I looked at her. I was like, "Look at me, look at me. I am the captain now."
Well, actually, she put you in your place because you were trying to argue with her.
I was not arguing.
You were arguing with her, is that you were like, I know the owner of this place. And he told me that if I buy 1 beer, I get 1 free. And she said, no, sir.
She said, show me the text. I said, I'll show you the text and I'll show you the digital flyer he sent me.
She told you no first. And then she says, show me the text, Jay. So Jay, to his credit, does get on his mobile device and he does text the gentleman that owns the bar. And he says, yes. In fact, it is buy 1, get 1 free.
Yes.
Yes, it was. So
I didn't even mean to flex. I'm not name dropping here, but we're trying to draw a crowd over there for away games. And he was like, hey, we're going to do 2 for 1. Tell everybody, get them over here. I'm trying to help them out. I'm not trying to just name drop and show off in front of people.
However, it turns out that buy 1, get 1 are only for Heinekens.
And Tito's.
Jay was not drinking. Therefore, he was incorrect. I guess that's a question, right? Are you incorrect or are you right with a buy 1, get 1, although you were incorrect in what you could get for that buy 1, get 1?
Well, so the specification did not happen via texting with Guy, who's the owner.
Well, you're damn right, because the bartender came right around and said, she
did. But you had Heineken, so I hope you at least got your 2 for 1s. But
I did.
To his credit, to Guy, the owner's credit, the little digital ad that he sent me did have a glass of Heineken and a bottle of Tito's. Maybe I just didn't put 2 and 2 together.
See, life is in the tension.
I was hyped because I was like, 2 for 1 Guinness. Let's do this.
It was just like a bang, bang, bang. But there was football that went on. We did catch the game over at Fox and Hound, and although this game did not have any of these magical highlights or anything like that, it did land us a result against Orlando City, which, listen, guys, I understand that it was not a win. I understand we didn't get 2 to 3 goals like we've been putting up, but if you were to tell us that we were going to go up to the second best team in the Eastern Conference in their arena and take home a tie with 1 point, especially rolling with the momentum that we are, I got to say, Jay, I got to take it.
We will take that all day. There was an instance we thought we were going to win that, but very interesting game. I'd say a game of mirrors, almost a reciprocated game for both sides. Very, very interesting. Why don't you go ahead and kind of give us the high-level overview before we bring those ever so in-demand Jay's Game Time Stats.
God, I can't wait for Jay's Game Time Stats. But, I mean, listen, we all watch this game. If you like high-scoring football, this was not the game for you. Just going to be honest with you. Which is a little surprising. Maybe it shouldn't be, because in our last game, we did tie 1-1 off of that Kieran Gibbs header. And this is a super good team, everyone. Don't get it twisted by the 0-0 tie and being like, how the hell did we pull that off? Well, keep in mind, this was rivalry week in MLS, so everybody was fired up. And this was our last game against Orlando City. So everybody came to play, and unfortunately, we were a couple inches away from getting that one goal at least, but I think the same could be said for Orlando City against us. So to your credit, Jay, I think a game of mirrors is a total perfect analogy for this match.
It was. And before we get started, I do want to have a little correction. Apologies for the Gregory mix-up. We had initially heard that he was going to miss a game, so doing the due diligence that we like to do, we went to the MLS stat side. And guess what? You know what? I can't even take that much blame for this because they had not updated the yellow card accumulation for Gregory at that time.
And what's the one thing you tell me every single week, Jay?
Shut up.
Well, yeah, but beyond that,
I don't know.
Don't trust the stats.
Don't trust the stats.
Don't
You're
trust
right.
the
You're
stats
right.
on
But
MLS.
I'll tell you what, boy, did we miss Gregory out there. Our speed, pressure, swag suffered a little bit. And this is a player that we have grown to love. This is El Capitan. We needed him, but good news is we will have him back. But this is really the only major change in the starting 11. Blaze started in place of him. But yeah, we got to it, and they're a really good team. If you follow them, you obviously know the attacking presence they have with all their strikers and wingers. But really not the most beautiful first half. A little painful, some might say. Seemed like we barely even touched the ball. Although, that's not accurate, but felt that way.
It felt that way, at least for the first 35 minutes, where it was just kind of like, I don't even think we had the ball for a total of about 90 seconds from front to back. So the game definitely seemed like it was a little bit more lopsided than what it was. But that's why we can't wait to get ready for Jay's Game Time Stats.
Is that a good interjection right here?
Jay's.
If not now,
Game Time Stats.
When? So just right off the rip. Not like a horrible game, but we were definitely outpossessed by Orlando. Basically, about a 56-44 right there with Inter on the downside. What really stuck out, and this is the trending theme we're seeing in games where we either lose or potentially draw, but shots, man. They had 15 shots. We only had 5. And as far as those being on target, we only had 2, but they only had 2. So they're just ripping it wide or all over the place. That's a very poor percentage on their side. They had us in passes, really. We both had 2 offsides. We had more tackles, one though, which was impressive. And you know what? They're just really not going to let us get back to number 1 on the yellow card list. They had 2. We had 1. Thank God, no red cards. Nobody wants to see a red card anymore.
I actually have a treat for all the people who really pay attention to the yellow card accumulation like we do. This is definitely a stat we pay attention to every week, and we got a nice little update later in the show. But Jay, I'm looking at these stats too here, and I guess the number that stands out to me is 13 and 14 fouls between both clubs. That's 27 fouls over the course of a game. What does that tell you about the play on the pitch?
It tells you this rivalry is becoming a rivalry, man. It gets a little chippy out there. You typically see Nani complaining all over the field, but he didn't get the start. We will get into that in just a little bit. But really overwhelming attacking on this left-hand side. 52% of the attack was going down that left-hand side. So that's something that we continue to see develop, that chemistry between Robbie and Gibbs or whoever is back there in the current time trying to really up that speed. But it was Gibbs this game, and that is something that we want to continue to develop, especially for Robbie. That seems to be our preferred side, where I'd say prior to Robbie really settling in, prior to Gibbs coming, we would see more on that right-hand side with Lewis Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a scare, too, with Gibbs on this one. He came off the pitch due to what seemed like an injury, seemed like a head injury. Hopefully he's okay. I haven't seen any reports about him come out earlier this week. But yeah, I guess that opened the door for the Lizard Man. You know, Breck Shea himself. It's been a while since we saw him out with his...
Man,
you're right.
It's the
God.
Lizard King.
Oh, jeez. Well, we saw him out there, and it had been a while, and it was funny. I was just seeing him out there, and just with his big blonde just hair just jumping out around there. He looks like he belongs.
He looks like he got his hair cut from Miley Cyrus, and I absolutely love it. I'm not going to lie. Last thing that really stuck out to me here is just average player position. Both Gibbs and Morgan, this is average player position, but they were higher up just over that midline, whereas Gonzalo stayed right there on that midline, right in the circle, right in the middle. So, I really do like this 5 at the back or the 3 at the back with the 2 wing backs. I like them getting up there into the attack. This is something we're still continuing to improve. We have still leaps and bounds of improvement we can make, but all in all, we'll take the draw because at least it's not a loss to our rivals.
Absolutely. We'll take that anytime against Orlando City, I guess, for this year, right? And then next year, we'll see what happens. But again, this is kind of winding down with this tie. We've won 4, tied twice, and lost once in our final 7 games. So, that's pretty impressive. And, this was one of those games, too, that we had a couple players on Orlando City not start for the club, which was interesting. Didn't really see any reasons to why. I think the Discord, I know I dropped a link in there, and it didn't seem like anybody had any kind of good reasoning for if DK was starting or not. But DK and Nani did not start in this match. Both did come off the bench, but I was a little surprised to see that.
The only thing I can think of is that Nani participated in the All-Star game, but they typically play like 30 or 40 minutes. So I didn't think it would be enough for him to really not start this game. And DK, he's obviously battled some injuries this season. We're not the Orlando City podcast, so we don't really stay on top of that. That could be the only thing I could have looked to explain that, but there was definitely a little bit of this, oh crap, like we're going to be more tired in the second half, and if they bring in both Nani and DK in like the 70th minute, they're going to be full of energy, and it's going to be hard to keep up with these two.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, that's right. I mean, this would have been one of those games that I would have liked to have seen, almost Indiana, right, get the start over Blaze potentially. And I know that you kind of lean on Blaze's seniority and his kind of stature, I guess, to kind of, be calm in a game like this. We are going against our rival. We're on a bit of a hot streak here. But this is one of those games, with Orlando City being pretty speedy and athletic across the pitch, is that I would have liked to have seen us match that with a little bit more energy out there. And I think that sub where, we could have seen Indiana in there, but we went with Blaze was kind of telling, I think, on Phil's strategy at the end of this game as well.
I think he just wanted to stay more defensive-minded in that first half.
Agreed.
Indy has obviously proved himself in his attacking prowess, but Blaze is definitely a more defensive player. So it's this is an interesting formation because they do want to stay with the centralized midfielders and that defensive mindset. But we'll see how this grows and what happens with Indy. That is a great question. Is he gone at the end of the season? Can we get him potentially loaned out even longer? Could we maybe get him as a acquisition to where he's forever on our team because we don't really want to see him go? He seems to be one of our best options right now. But
which is a good question because let's use him while we can, while we know we have him.
Yeah, that is a very good point. I think he's starting to really prove himself. So get all we can. Squeeze that lemon for all its juice. But we only had a couple quality shots. I mean, really just 2 on target. And obviously many of those were interrupted by Pedro Gallese, showing us why he's a top goalkeeper. I mean, this guy is a monster. He came back out for the MLS All-Star game. They've been missing him for a few weeks, and you can see why they miss him, man. He's a very, very talented goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it and we really line up the goalkeepers there are, he's someone that comes to mind, as probably a top 5,
Yeah.
Matt Turner, Joe Willis,
Blake.
Blake on NYCFC. And, you really got to talk about Pedro in that kind of class in that group right there. So definitely a tough goalkeeper. I mean, there was one play that came to mind. I think it was in the first half where it was off of a corner by Lewis Morgan, I believe, and it fell at the feet of Pizarro and put it in, or he gave it a shot, but Galisi got like a finger on it as he was diving to the right side of the goal and just barely got a fingertip on it to keep the score level.
Just the reaction time was insane. I mean, really good game from both goalkeepers. Very good. Even Marsman had something very, very similar where it was a very, kind of quick reaction save. But what a game. What a game by Nick Marsman. I mean, he has really seemed to be one of the major catalysts in this team this year. This was his first clean sheet as a Heron, and this is Inter Miami's second clean sheet of the year, going all the way back to week 3 in our first game against Nashville, which we drew out 0-0. He was also on the MLS Team of the Week for the first time, but on the bench. And I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with this, keeping a tally, but that might make it literally 6 consecutive weeks we've had a player on MLS Team of the Weeks. Could even be longer than that. I feel like it's every week, at least an Inter Miami player is up there. And we're very impressed with that. So shout out to the lads.
Great point, Jay. I mean, look at Inter Miami just getting some respect out of the league right here. I think the league is starting to account for this club getting some momentum. And again, watch out here, the back third of this. But good point, Jay. Nick was definitely the star of the game. He was definitely the player of the match, as he was awarded as well. And again, for all of us who watch the game, just like I'm sure everyone tuning in on this podcast, really kind of 2 big moments come to mind when you think back on Nick Marsman's performance. Really, on the first was that PK in the minute 11th, just the 11th minute into the match, and have something go on that bad, right? Like
we were all like, it was so much longer in the game than that,
right? Like we were there for a while.
That's like
we were there for a while, but no, this came in minute 11 of the match, and we were just sitting there like, shit, here we go again. A classic handball in the box. Nico had his arm up. It was a clear handball. It was a fair call. It was a decent call, and it was what it was. So fully expecting to go down 1-0, but no. Nick Marsman stopped that by diving to his right and denying Tasho Akadeli from the goal. That was really just a momentum turn in this entire game. And if they put away that goal, who knows? Maybe the game isn't tied. We probably end up losing that match because, especially with the offensive firepower that we were shooting out there, it wasn't going to get it done. And then, kind of towards the back end of the game, minute 84 was another one of those just glimmering moments that Nick Marsman had in goal to bring home the tie.
Just a very quick reaction save. I mean, it seemed like the goalkeepers are just kind of, seeing each other. Then, anything you can do, I can do better. Just one-upping. But there were. Speaking of this game of mirrors, just it seemed to be very reciprocated. There were 2 VAR incidents, one for each team, that actually disallowed a goal. Unfortunately, Tesho, you're also involved in this one, but it was in the 24th minute. Robin Janssen of Orlando received a short corner outside of the box. He struck a pretty powerful shot from deep, but it seemed to, people were questioning, did it get deflected? Did he just make a movement at it? Does it matter? Because if you are involved in the play and you're in offside positions, it's getting called offsides. And that's exactly what happened. Tesho Akindele made a reaction, put his foot out there. Again, very, very hard to tell, especially with that many Guinnesses in me, whether he made contact or not, but the rules are the rule. But
in that moment, he definitely made contact.
But in that moment, it was very close. But it doesn't matter. He's part of the play, offsides, got called back. Seemed like we just got saved again for the second time. And 15 minutes, less than that, honestly. And then going forward, right before the half, and in the 3rd minute of first half stoppage time, if I recall correctly, Gonzalo Higuain had a little breakaway play. Appeared to have the go-ahead goal in him. He got on the end of a very, very nice long ball from Blaise Matuidi, and he tried to get a little cheeky chip shot going, and we've seen that not work out in the past, but this time it certainly worked out. It was a beautiful goal. We were up and down jumping. running around, high-fiving, polishing off the rest of our respective beers we were sipping on. And then, no, little whistle, come back, review it, slightly off sides, and back to 0-0, man.
Back to 0-0, man.
It was tough. It was a game of feeling the distress and the panic, and then being saved, and then feeling that joy and happiness, and then just having it ripped right back out, and just looking at each other and said, damn, so that's what that feels like.
Ain't that the truth, man? Ain't that the truth? This was definitely one of those games that it wasn't going to give any which way. And it was funny because we absolutely blew up in Fox and Hound when that goal went in by Gonzalo. And to kind of have that peeled back, and we looked at the replay and we're like, yeah.
At that point, you just look over. And I think I was like, well, good high fives, everyone. Like, what do you do? Everyone just got real raw hyped. But yeah, man. I mean, good times regardless.
Yeah, man. And, the other part of the puzzle, too, that we just haven't been able to figure out. And, I know that you have a clip here from Phil Neville that we're going to play, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these set piece struggles.
Indeed. Let's do this.
In terms of our set plays, we nearly scored tonight from one. In terms, I think it was Rodolfo. The keeper made a fantastic save. It's an area of our game that we work really hard on. It's an area of our game where we need to keep improving. It's an area of our game where I think once we score one, I think we'll score many. It's just getting that first goal. Defensively, I thought our defending set plays were fantastic tonight in terms of the ability to put their bodies on the line. And we just keep improving.
I don't know if Phil's just, one of those die-hard Inter Miami podcast fans out there, Jay, but his words seem to have echo. It just takes one. And that's something that we've talked about Lewis Morgan. And I got to say, this might be the case with some of these set pieces. 0 goals all year is no bueno. But Jay, with one, do you think that we're going to get this going, or what seems to be the problem in your eyes?
So in this one instance, I would say the old pop in the cherry here probably is different than, say, like Lewis Morgan last season, where he finally got one, then they just started dropping in. You always, want to get that gorilla off your back, or whatever you want to call it, at the start of the season. That first goal is always the hardest to come by. It's different, though, because that's more of a mentality for a player, whether it be a striker, midfielder, winger, whatever it be. But with set pieces, I mean, it really does require a lot of practice, a lot of tactics in it, and you have to execute. Everyone needs to be executing on the same page and damn near perfect. Now, if we do this and we start to find what works, then maybe it could allow for more to come in. But a lot of the times, man, it's just poor service. It really kind of just comes down to poor service and being way short or being too long. And not many balls are getting dropped right into the middle of that 6-yard box area where anyone can really get up and make a play. But there's got to be something's got to give. Maybe we're just saving them for all the games that matter.
Do you think it would be fair to see maybe someone else take the set piece kicks? And maybe let's have someone else rotate in for Lewis. And that's no disrespect on Lewis, but we just got to change something up.
Yeah, I could see potentially Pizarro or even Blaze, or I think it would be really, really solid would be probably like a Gibbs or even like a Gregory. Especially Gregory's got beautiful distribution. So I think we do mix something up, because 0 goals off corners are just that's unacceptable. I mean, it took a while for us to get a set piece goal last season. We've got to find out a way to really up that and start being effective, because there are games where we get 7, 8 corner attempts, and we have to utilize those. That's how you really win and execute and kill off games.
Yeah, something to potentially change something in the formula to hopefully alter the result is the way that I would look at that. And, it's tough because, you got to count on a lot of things, and part of it's coaching, part of it's on field performance. And, you got to look at our roster too. We have people like, Gibbs and LGP and Nico Fagal and, Shawcross and people like that who have no problem pushing up and actually being pretty potent in a set piece, situation. but we've just lacked that first goal. And I think that this is going to be one of those things. And yeah, I mean, I totally get your point where, one is more player related. One's kind of like a set of players, but I think just kind of getting over that piece. And you talk about it a lot here on this podcast, Jay, and it's kind of like the mental hurdle, right? And now that we're so far into the regular season, we're about 22 games or so underneath our belt, and we're without a set piece goal. And I think at some capacity that has to exist in a player's mind when those fouls are called. So,
well, I think it's really just corners, because if I recall correctly, the first outing against Philadelphia where we won, I want to say Gonzalo's header was off Federico's set piece, but it wasn't a corner. It was just a free kick. But yeah, we got to find a way to up that out. I mean, outside of that, everything's being scored from the run of play except for the random penalties for Gonzalo here and there. But we need that element of our game, and that's something that as soon as we can really improve on that, then we'll really round out and be a pretty overall solid team. I definitely think there's a chance still, even with a 9-point gap, that we're making a push for the playoffs. And we were going to get into that in more detail later.
Yeah, and I think we're figuring it out. And I think that we've clearly seen not just a formation change, but an overall strategy on players on the pitch and the way that they maneuver around, the field change. And I think that that's been super big. And, as we're kind of peaking up here and we're in really the most important part of our regular season, we have a couple players who are about to leave us.
We do. We've got Pizarro being called up to the Mexican national team, and Mr. Robbie Robinson getting called up to the Chilean national team, his first call up. So both will be out, and we will miss them, hopefully not dearly, for our next 2 games, although we're starting to get into the crunch time of the season where we need to really start making sure we can win and take points in every single game. But they're going to be out the 3 games, September 2nd, September 5th, and September 8th. That does happen over a 2-game span. In theory, they should be back for the Toronto game, the Toronto game. If not, potentially the Columbus game, but I just don't know if there's going to be enough time for that. Definitely not Pizarro, but we'll see what we can do. Luckily, our next game against Cincinnati is, they're not the best team. They're actually the worst team. So we could probably get over that hurdle. Columbus, I really wanted to see a full squad, but we will be missing those. But to your point you just made, I really think Phil is starting to realize how to utilize these players and how to play them in the best position to get the best results from them. And I do have confidence in Phil now. It's definitely been growing. And, we're really going to get into crunch time. I'm telling, what is this? 13 games over the next 2 months, and we're still 2 games behind. So this is going to be very, very exciting time to watch that table probably not even every single week, interweek. You're going to have to check it probably daily at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of going crazy right now, and this is kind of the exciting part about it. And we also had 2 games that we need to make up at the end of the season that were missed in the beginning of the season. So that's kind of why we're in a little bit of a time crunch here. And
missed one. Apparently, we're playing Toronto now on Tuesday, so I guess we only one was postponed, that New York Red Bulls game. They just scheduled this behind for some reason.
And Jay, with Pizarro and Robbie out, these 2 people have been in the starting lineup for the last 4-ish matches or so. Who do you see stepping in to fill those shoes? And do you see our formation changing with these 2 players gone?
So that last part is a very, very good question. I see Robbie being replaced with Indy. I see Pizarro being placed with Jay Chapman or Federico.
It's been a while since we've seen
or
Jay out there.
Victor Ulloa. We know how much Neville loves Ulloa, and Gregory will be back. So it'll be interesting to see. You really got me thinking on that last part, because I love this little, 4-3 or 3-4-3, or I don't know, 5-2-3, whatever you want to call it. I like this formation. I really like how we're playing. So that might require a little bit of tinkering. Whatever you want to do with the midfield, Phil. Yeah. I'm okay with. Whatever you want to do with the attack, I'm okay with. Please, please, please keep 3 centralized defenders at the back with 2 wing backs. That seems to really be working, both on the attack, but also making sure we're covering ourselves on defense.
We'll have to find out what Phil does, but Jay, I think you're right. I think you see Ulloa staying in the starting 11 as we see Gregory come back in, and probably, or I guess one of the 2 being out. I think he moves right back in there, and I think Indiana would be a pretty good little replacement right there. And I guess the next question that brings this to is, When's our next game? We got our next match against Cincinnati FC going down on September 4th, which is a Saturday. Can you believe we're in the final third of the year? Unbelievable, people. This is just crazy. Yeah, we're almost at the holiday times, but this is an away game in Cincinnati. We have played there before. If you don't remember, we actually played them in our first couple games of this year, and we actually ruined their season opener. I'm sorry, their stadium opener. Not their season, their stadium
TQL
opener.
Stadium.
And they were marching down, the entire street in, what is that, Ohio? I don't even know where Cincinnati is. Ohio.
It's Ohio.
Yeah,
it's
they
an
were
hour
marching
away
down
from
the road.
It's an hour away from Louisville.
Well, there you go.
If you didn't know, I'm
Kentucky
from Kentucky.
reference in there. It's been a few episodes.
Got to get one in.
Oh man, but no, our game's going down on Saturday at 8 p.m. Like we said, Cincy has not won a game
I didn't mean to snort.
since June 26th. That's a
Damn,
long time.
son.
That's a long time. You know,
Hey,
what I'm
we
saying?
know that pain though.
Yeah,
we know.
we do.
We
Hey,
know
share it over here. And then guess what, Jay? The team that they beat back then, no other than Toronto.
Man, what happened to
So, man,
Toronto?
they really
this year?
woke up that morning and ate their Wheaties or something like that. But
Wrong side.
yeah, but this was if you do recall, this was a 3-2 dub back in mid-May. When
Snuck
we
it out,
played.
though.
It was a nail biter. This was something that we were up. I think
can't
it was
talk too
2-0,
much shit.
and we're like, damn, like we're crushing teams. We just came off that Philly dub, and we were like, woo, MLS, watch out. And then we're like, oh shit, we still have 10 minutes to play in this game. 1 goal, 2 goal. And then luckily Gonzalo put in the game a winner to pull that W out. This was also our last win when we went on a 6-game losing streak too. So I don't know how many jabs can be thrown around here, but
rough.
that brings our record to the season right now with not our record, Cincinnati's record with 3 wins, 8 ties, and 9 losses. Very poor showing thus far this year. And last year, they did not show up any better, but we actually needed them to pull this win out. And what did they do? They obviously lost. They lost to the Columbus Crew 3-2 in the playoff running. That makes a difference for Cincinnati. It really doesn't make a difference at all. They are the second lowest goal scoring team in the league. And for those of you who are laughing, don't laugh too hard because we are the 3rd lowest goal scoring team in the entire league. And however, they do give up much more goals than us. So that's one that you can hang your hat on. They've surrendered 37 goals this season, which is 3rd to last, but they only have a -6 goal differential from us at this time. So Jay, there are a lot of things to talk about that are wins to do with this team, man. We cannot come out and lose against this club because these are the games that we talk about each and every week.
Yeah,
You got to win the games that you should win, and that's how you make the playoffs.
for sure. We should. I mean, and honestly, they almost beat Columbus Crew. It looked like they were going to walk out of there with a win until Miguel Berry scored in the 81st and 82nd minute or something crazy like that. It was literally like back-to-back goals just to rip their hearts out. And man, tough. But this is a very beatable team. We cannot come into this. We cannot play down to our competition. We really need to execute right here. We need to get the 3 points and continue this climb because, again, we're looking at 9 points between right now Inter Miami and the DC United, which is on that 7th spot of just inside that playoff line.
It's coming down to the wire here, everybody. And actually, Jay, that little tidbit of time there was 3 goals in the final 15 minutes, but I think all 3 of which goals came in 4 minutes of separation of each other. So it was just crazy. The final 15 minutes of that game was nuts.
Gotcha. Well, obviously players to watch. Brenner, shout out to all the Brazilians coming into the league. This seems to be a new increased trend, but he's got 5 goals. Definitely underperforming for the price tag on him, which I want to say 12 million, something ridiculously high, 8 million. I can't really remember off top, but it was multiple millions. I know that. And then of course, this is who they're really, really big on is Luciano Acosta. He is very, very talented. Still kind of developing and really getting to his peak in this league, but he's got 4 goals, 5 assists. That's really what you need to look out for. Again, this is a game where if we play calm, compose, maintain possession, have more passes, more shots, this is something we walk away with. But let's not forget, this is going to be back at TQL Stadium. They are going to want their revenge. We did ruin their stadium opener. They're going to come back and make us pay for that. But I got a feeling they're not going to be able to do that.
I don't think so. And again, we're riding high right now. If we were to go up to Cincinnati and even tie this game, I think that's a loss for us. These are games right now as we're about to get into the more of the playoff push and the outlook of how important these games are, especially the ones that we should go out and win. It's evident. And we cannot fly up to Cincinnati and take home an L or a tie here. This has got to be a dub.
These are we're getting into must-win games here. And this is what I want to talk about. So we're going to let's run through what our playoff outlooks are. But first and foremost, want to shout out Inter Miami. Climbed up another spot on the MLS power rankings. We're now 14th. We were 24th, jumped up to 15th. Now we jumped up to 14th, which was good to see coming off a draw. But the thing that I want everyone to key in as we go through this discussion, 10 out of our 14 remaining games are against teams that currently sit outside of the playoff line. That means we're only going to play a few games of teams that are better than, I say, where we are on the table right now, or at least in that playoff category. And then, of course, our random West Coast game we're getting against the Portland Tenders.
What you got on your mind?
A random game against the Portland Timbers. So this is 10. We need 7 wins, if not more. And it's doable. We're trending up, man. Buy on Inter Miami right now. This is where it's going to get exciting. This is what you're going to love to see. This is going to be nonstop action. We've got 6 games coming in the month of September. We have 7 games coming in the month of October. Each will be critical as we climb that table. This is why we love the sport. Let's just hope we get there, baby.
Yeah, and actually, Jay, looking ahead, those 4 games that we play against teams who are in the playoffs, 2 of which are actually against the Columbus Crew, which is actually good for us because right now the way that the table is set up as we're dropping this podcast on Wednesday, September 1st, is that Columbus Crew is just 1 position outside of DC United for that patented 7th seed for the Eastern Conference. Right above them is Montreal in the 6th seed, and above them is Philadelphia in the 5. So why is this important? Because right now, Inter Miami is sitting in the 11th seed in the Eastern Conference. So you got it. To get to 11, to get up to 7, you got to go through Columbus. So 2 of the 4 games that we are playing against teams who are in playoff position are against the Columbus Crew. And in case if you're wondering, who are those other 2 games that are playoff teams right now? Well, the MLS schedule gods did not shine a light on us because our last 2 games of the regular season are against NYCFC and then to wrap it up, the New England Revolution. So we'll see. The Revs are probably going to be towards the tail end of their Supporters Shield run. And Jay, I got to say, man, I think the chance for us at this game is just that they're running away with it and they choose to sit down all their players.
Yeah, it could very much be that situation. I think the 2 hardest games we're looking at are Nashville and in New York. Those are really the 2 top teams we have to play against. And then, of course, again, Timbers, but they're on the West Coast. But, Columbus just outside, these are going to be tough games because Columbus is going to be scrapping to get into that 7th spot as well. So we really need to key in on this and make sure that we're doing a spectacular job here.
I mean, Columbus and every team in between us. And I mean, you look at the 2 teams who are in between the Columbus Crew and Inter Miami, you're looking at Atlanta and Chicago. And both those teams are rolling right now. We happened to stall the fire a few weeks ago with a W, but that Atlanta team is super tough. And they did just take home a loss against Nashville this last week. But again, that's been a super hot team. And Jay, as we kind of talk about this Eastern Conference, you touched on it earlier in this show, man. And man, this NYCFC team continues to dominate team after team. In my opinion, dude, this club is my pick right now to win the MLS Cup this NYCFC team is absolutely firing off on all cylinders. This team win was 2-1 against the Revs this last week, and you're going against the best goalie in the MLS with Matt Turner. And, when you have a player like Castellanos, what more do you need? Putting in 2 goals in this game and a header to just absolutely set your wet dream on fire.
Yes, well done, well done. I was only looking at September, October. I forgot we finished the season with the Revs.
Yes.
So we need to make sure we do this in the next 2 months, because that last game, unless we come to amazing form, that's going to be very, very tricky. But I cannot agree with you more. NYCFC, are they the real deal? Did the Revs have a bad game? That's what we'll have to see. I mean, they truly are in that peak performance. I could totally understand why that would be your pick of, not necessarily the top 2 or 3 teams, but someone who can make that run, because they seem to be playing extremely well. It's very impressive, honestly.
It's all about when are you getting hot, at what time of the year, right? And NYCFC, if they didn't have such an overwhelming, so much pace to keep up with the Revs in the Eastern Conference, they could have made a run at the Supporters Shield, but the Revs got everybody in their rear view mirror, so it doesn't even matter. So last week we actually discussed this as we were kind of focusing on more of the MLS outlook on, what 2 games this last weekend caught our eye and why. And those 2 games were DC United against the Philadelphia Union and Nashville against Atlanta, all for pretty obvious reasons, being that they all on the playoff hunt right now. And both these games really didn't, disappoint. It was funny. The Atlanta-Nashville game was actually really just kind of like a 1-0 game. I know the final score was 2-0. That was just because in extra time in the second half, Guzan was, playing up at midfield, and they happened to get a little dinker over him, and he put in the back of the net to win 2-0. But
He looks so embarrassed.
Oh man, I love
I know you don't have any love for that.
Every time we can make a little bit of some meme action on Guzman, that I'm all about that. But funny thing, Jay, I don't know if you caught a highlight of this match, but when Rios put in that goal towards actually an extra time of the first half, he did a move that I know that you would love. He actually turned to all the Atlanta United fans, and he put his fingers in his ear saying, "I can't hear you."
Oh, they're no love
Super
lost there.
swaggy. I liked it.
That's becoming a really chippy rivalry as well, which we obviously like to see.
We like to see it. And I mean, if you didn't catch this, it is rivalry week in the MLS. So we had all these games going down. We had, El Tráfico. We had Copa del Sol. We had Nashville, Atlanta. And then the other game that we had just talked about was really DC, Philadelphia. And, we don't need to get into my love affair with DC United. I think that they are one of those teams that you just got to really look out for. They're one of those like bottom feeder teams. They're going to creep into the playoffs and be like, no, let's don't worry about them, and give a team a run for their money. But this honestly was the worst loss of Inter Miami's kind of competitive balance and landscape in the playoff hunt that happened this last weekend. DC United beat the Philadelphia Union. I repeat, DC United did beat Philadelphia. We did not want the Philly Union to win this game. We needed DC to fall, but off of the leg of Kamara, that did not happen. This guy is going absolutely ballistic in the MLS with 8 goals in 8 games. He is absolutely on fire. And Jay, this DC United team just will not go away. They are sitting in the 7th seed right over Columbus and in between Montreal for that 6. Is there anything that you saw in those 2 games, man? Those were kind of the most impactful, I guess, for Inter Miami over the last weekend outside of our match.
They were good games to watch. Rivalry week is always fun. These games matter because all these teams involved are basically right around those last few playoff spots. I couldn't agree with, I can't agree more with anything you said. Like DC United, it's you could have some struggles during the season, but it's really about hitting your form at the right time. And they hit their form several weeks ago. My question is, can you keep that up throughout the entire season? I mean, Kamara's obviously been on fire, but will that maintain? While you were going over that, I did just have a little heartbreaking moment of realization here that we're 14 on the ESPN power rankings. We're actually 20th in the MLS.com power rankings.
So I guess that.
So we're going to go with ESPN moving forward. ESPN. Quick sell. You got me.
I got to ask you, when you told us that we jumped from the 20s to 15, was that just because you were looking at ESPN and MLS, or was that because it was actually reality?
It's reality in ESPN's world.
All right.
You know, like, look, here's the way I look at it. MLS is just one league. ESPN is over all the leagues. ESPN is the overlord. So I'm going to go with those trusted journalists and analysts versus some retired soccer players who are trying to be sports journalists. I'm going to go with the ESPN one. No disrespect to anyone at MLS or any of their podcasts or media, but rank us higher or we're going with ESPN.
Fair enough. You heard it here first. Rank us higher or we're going with ESPN. In case anybody wants to start their own website, if you rank us a little bit higher too, we'll give you a shout out on the pod. You heard it here first.
It's easy to get our business.
Oh, man. And listen, we got a few more minutes here, but there was one player, Jay, that just keeps just standing out, man. And he's just someone that I just got to say, man, this is one of those players that it's like, is he the next, USMN national team call-up? Who knows? And you know that we're talking about Ricardo Pepi, who has been playing absolutely out of his mind all year. He's an American player, so you can cheer for him. It's okay. You can cheer for this man. He's going to be wearing the red, blue, and white one day playing for the national team. And this guy, 11 goals to his name, sir, already in this league.
What kind of American says red, blue, and white and not red, white, and blue? It's literally the standard American color shout out. Disappointed in you.
Going on.
Very impressed with Ricardo Pepi. This guy, man, the composure at 18 years old, the strength, the precision. This man can rip a ball with ease. It is so impressive to see. He will not be in this league for too long. He's going to Europe. This will be someone that you can see joining the ranks of my boy Christian Pulisic, also Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, Sergino Dest, Conrad, Tanner Tessman, Josh Sargent, name it. We have players all over Europe, and this is going to be the next one. I am very, very happy to see this young kid balling out this hard. It's impressive, man. It's like, what were you doing at 18? Not professionally doing sports. We were just kind of amateurly doing sports.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this kid play, too, to Jay's point,
I'll tell you what. All you need to see of him is watch his highlights from the MLS All-Star Skills Challenge. Mm-hmm. He absolutely crushed this kind of one-time challenge of just ripping volleys and. Super, super impressive. So much that the Mexican goalkeeper had to go down and fake an injury just to stop the competition because this 18-year-old was just dusting him left and right. That'd be the one piece. Watch just how good. Just like, it's crazy. It's instinctual. He just instinctually knows exactly where to place it, the right amount of pace to beat the keeper. It seems like every single time. It's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, don't look now, too, as we're kind of pivoting over to the Western Conference with Dallas, but Dallas is making a run at the playoffs, too. They're sitting with 25 points, only 2 points out of that 7th slot, which Real Salt Lake holds right now. And Jay, this game ended 5-3 against Austin, which we can always appreciate an expansion team getting beat.
It makes us feel better.
Yeah, it makes us feel a little bit better.
We don't want to be that mean, but it makes us feel a little bit better.
Just a little bit, but I'll take it. This game was 4-1 in the first 35 minutes, so never really a match. Dallas took away with it. Pepi continues to do his thing, 11 goals. He's probably a top 10 goal scorer in the entire MLS. And, I had alluded to it earlier in the show, but I do have an update for all the fans out there that I know keep track of the yellow card accumulation like Jay and myself do. And actually, as we're talking about Dallas, people will be excited to know that Dallas is actually taking the yellow card world by storm. They have 57 yellow cards to date. 57, Jay.
That's just impressive by any standards there.
I mean, that is super impressive.
Let's just we gotta shout that out, dude. Well done. You dethroned us. You make LGP look like a pacifist.
I mean, from our fans to yours, congratulations. And, listen, we are actually probably sitting around like 7th or 8th because we only have 45 to our name.
We've tightened up.
We are 12 behind the league leader, and we thought we were going to lead the league in that category.
I kind of wanted to lead the league in that category. It was the one thing we were leading in at that time.
I'm not going to lie. It would have been a nice little, maybe we could have got a crown, right? Like a little award with a yellow card.
Yeah, definitely.
You think an NFT gets sold for that?
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Keep you focused.
We are, or maybe it's just me. I'm just floating on up to Decentraland over here. But super quick, finishing up for the West. Portland took on Seattle. Always a fun game. Most of the game was 1-0 until the final minute, but Portland was able to pull out that W. I know Seattle's sitting as one of the best teams in the West right now. And then last but not least, we had El Tráfico, which was...
Man,
one of the best games of the year. Truly fantastic. Ended in a 3-3 tie between LAFC and the LA Galaxy. And Jay, that might have held the goal of the year.
You're talking about the Uruguayan young DP stud, Mr. Brian Rodriguez, who I'm low key a fan of, have been for a while. Yes, that was. Some are calling it one of the best goals in league history. This man put 3 dudes on skate, little outside, little inside, little outside, rips a ball through the roof of the goal. And I mean, wow, that's something that is just remarkable and good for him because he has had his struggles. So to really come through in such an impactful game for LAFC, where they want nothing more than just to destroy everything that the LA Galaxy has ever built or stood for. I mean, that is a truly malicious rivalry right there. Yes, absolutely, hands down, goal of the year, if not top 10 in the history of the MLS. I mean, beautiful. Go YouTube that if you haven't seen it already. Brian Rodriguez, LA Galaxy goal. Be impressed. Give me someone like that.
Spectacular. And that game actually held up to the weight of what everybody was hoping to. There were 2 players who were missing from that game that were the biggest headliners of all. That's Carlos Vela and Chicharito. Did not play in El Tráfico this year, but this game did not disappoint. It's definitely one of those games that each and every year you have to watch. If not, just go experience it from yourself. But that kind of brings us to the end of the show here as we went over a quick little update on what's going around the league. If I was to tell you to watch any games outside of Inter Miami this weekend, there would be 3 in particular. On Friday night, Nashville takes on NYCFC, which that is one hell of a game. Both teams are on fire. After that game, actually, is Philadelphia versus the New England Revs. That has a lot of playoff implications. Let's hope the Revs beat Philadelphia and continue to knock them down. And flipping over to Saturday, Columbus versus Orlando. That's a game that I'm keeping an eye on for. I think Nani and Dike are both going to start in that match, and I think Columbus is in some trouble to continue their free fall. It was only just a ledge where they got to hit their head against Cincinnati, and they're going to keep their following here next week, bud.
I did not hear you. I was not paying attention, to be fair. Did you already mention Nashville NYCFC?
Yes, I did.
Perfect. Other one I'm watching, San Jose, Colorado. This will be a pretty exciting game. Colorado is really in good form. Cade Cowell seems to be balling out of his mind for San Jose, so that's something I'm definitely watching on Saturday as well. But, of course, after I watch this beautiful Inter Miami win over Cincinnati, taking it home, I'm going to go ahead and say 2-1. He's holding up 3-1. I don't know why he understands this as an auditory medium. So Alex is 3-1. I'm at 2-1. Regardless, let's go out and get this dub. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Inter Miami podcast. As always, I'm Jay Kington with a crazy man next to me, Mr. Alex Papa George. We're starting to lose a little bit, but if you do not follow us already, check us out on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Inter Miami Podcast. Twitter at Inter MIA Podcast. Keep an eye out for Pink Smoke. Dan's been dropping fire, not just Fort Lauderdale CF, also MLS news, also EPL news, worldwide soccer. It's all there. Check it out. Thank you so much. And if you're so kind-hearted, go ahead and leave us a positive review, preferably 5 stars on the Apple Store, or Apple Podcast, rather. But as we end every episode, vamos, Miami.
Vamos, Miami.